already indicated their participation. Please join me in a prayer and our pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Hail Mary.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Randy, I want to thank you for saying the Hail Mary. Hey, Randy, thanks for saying the Hail Mary.
Got you covered, brother. I was starting my rosary.
There you go. May we have the council member roll call, please?
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Gertz. Mr. Lynn.
Here.
Mr. Albrecht.
Here.
Mr. Lindemann.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mrs. Edichico. Here.
Unless there's any objection, the minutes for the council meeting on July 20th, a legislative and a council of the whole meeting are approved as distributed. Those minutes are approved unless there's any objection. The minutes for the council meeting on August 3rd, a regular session, are approved as distributed. Those minutes are approved. Audience participation. Anyone in the audience that would like to step up and address council? Then we will go to a reading of any communications.
None?
We have a guest speaker here tonight. Linda Fitzgerald has come to, she's the Reading Economic Development Director. She's here tonight to give us a very brief discussion and to introduce our other guest speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nesbitt. Pleasure to be here. I'm always happy to be here and see each and every one of you. And tonight, we will talk briefly about two exciting economic development projects that are in the process of being realized. The first one that you are all very familiar with is redevelopment of the Dow Chemical property. And as you all know, that is a contaminated brownfield eyesore that generates very little earnings tax or schools property taxes for our schools. And so tonight, I'm going to introduce you in a minute to someone that's going to talk about a financing strategy to help that project be realized. But just as a reminder, this project, when it is completed, will generate 440 new high-paying manufacturing jobs. In other words, by high-paying, I mean about $65,000 a job, which is considered high in today's standards for manufacturing jobs. And it will create about 578,000 new payroll taxes to the city each year that all of you will then be able to use to provide services to our, first of all, residents, but to our businesses as well, whether it's police, fire, capital improvements, much needed money. So that'll be increase the property value of that site to $29 million. And again, it's insignificant today. So the other project that I'm just going to speak very briefly about before I introduce our other speaker is the what's called the Reading Life Sciences expansion site. And that's the 14-acre site that the city purchased. And again, this was a contaminated brownfield site. We tore down the old Nivus and Weiskopf building, and we secured almost $3 million in grants to get that site job ready. And I am happy to report that the city is in negotiations with an end user that I know all of you will be very happy to see, creating high-paying jobs. And I cannot divulge more than that except to say that it is in due diligence, and our attorneys and staff are working on that, but I feel very optimistic that that will happen as well, maybe early spring next year. And that will provide that kind of buffer for the city that I'm always looking for. You know, how can we provide the city taxes new taxes that will help stabilize us and help us grow and be able to be responsive to our citizens and provide them the services that they deserve. So very excited about both these projects. But why are we here tonight? I would like to introduce to you Brenda Weimer, and Brenda is with Dinsmore and Scholl. She specializes in a lot of things there, but one of those areas where she is a specialist is in the area of tax increment financing. And so she is going to provide a little primer on tax increment financing. I was telling Tony before the meeting that I think with the exception of he and Bo, all of you are new since 2008. Is that correct? And that is the last time we had a TIF before you. So we thought it would be appropriate to bring, oh, Dave, you too. Dave's up there smiling, I see. So we thought it would be appropriate to bring Brenda here this evening to talk about what is tax increment financing. We lovingly call it the acronym TIF. And basically, they are just used to finance infrastructure cost by leveraging the anticipation of future revenues by a future development. So that's where I'm leaving it, and now I'm going to ask Brenda, who has agreed to work with us again, to come up and give you a little summary of what TIF is, because we will be coming back to you on this project and asking for your support. Brenda?
For anybody that doesn't know Brenda, she's been an incredible counsel for us for quite some time and a huge help, and always appreciate
Yes,
you being
it
here.
has been a long time. I don't really want to think about how long it's been that I have been working with the City of Reading, but it's nice to be back here and nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. So as Linda said, I have come tonight to give you just sort of a 101 on what is TIF, tax increment financing, and what does it mean potentially for the proposed project in Reading. So as Linda alluded to, TIF is a economic development tool that is used to help finance the cost of public infrastructure. So it's not just any infrastructure, it's generally public infrastructure. And what happens in a TIF situation is that you will exempt a piece of property or multiple parcels of property, depending on the development, from real property taxes. And you will then substitute the real property taxes with service payments in lieu of taxes that are in the same amount that would have been paid as real estate taxes. So in most instances, the property owner is paying the same amount that they otherwise would have, but the money is redirected. So what is exempted? It is not the property value that exists today, but which Linda mentioned is relatively low. We refer to that as the historical value or the base value. Whatever the property is valued at today will not be exempted. That will continue to pay regular real estate taxes that will be distributed to the actual taxing entities, the school, the county, the city. It is increases in valuation that occur after the date of the TIF ordinance that are exempted from real property taxes. Usually that's in the form of new construction, renovations to an existing building, construction of a new building, although there are some increases in the land value as a result of just reappraisals as well as making the project more attractive than it may have been in its vacant state. So all of those increases in value can be exempted from property tax under TIF after the date that the TIF ordinance is passed. You have options on how much and how long to exempt the property taxes. You can exempt property taxes for 1 year up to a maximum of 30 years. You can exempt any percentage up to 100% of the property taxes. So you could structure an arrangement where a portion of the new valuation is still paying taxes and a portion is paying service payments. The rules are different when you exceed certain thresholds. The threshold level is 10 years and or 75%. So you can do an exemption for up to 10 years for up to 75% of the new value without any other approval needed. You do need to notify the affected school districts, but they do not have any approval rights. You may have to share income taxes with them if payroll exceeds $1 million. If you want to do an exemption that exceeds either 10 years or 75% or both, all the way up to 30 years and 100%, you not only have to notify the school, but they have approval rights. And in most cases, they will require some form of compensation in order to grant those approval rights for the exemption in that term for that amount. So we are here to help the city with all of the requirements in terms of who has to be notified when, how they have to get notified, and who has approval rights and so forth. So once you get a TIF in place, and the property taxes are exempted, as I said, service payments will be levied for the replacement of the property taxes. That money, instead of being distributed to the taxing entities, all comes to the city and goes into a tax increment equivalent fund. It can then be used to pay compensation payments to the school, and it can also be used to pay for the capital infrastructure improvements or debt service on bonds that may be issued to pay for those up front if you don't want to wait for all the money to accumulate before you make the improvements. Now, what constitutes a public capital improvement that you can spend TIF money on? These are typically what you think of when you think of public infrastructure improvements: roads, water, sewer improvements that are necessary for the development to occur. In this particular case, environmental remediation is what is being requested and what is needed for this particular site. And the statute does include environmental remediation, even environmental remediation on private property. So at this point, the port owns that property and it is public. But even if it were a situation where the ultimate end user already owned the property, you can use TIF money for environmental remediation on property that you don't own, which is normally not the case. Most of the other infrastructure improvements have to actually be owned by the city. The street has to be a public street. It can't be a private street. But environmental remediation can occur anywhere that is necessary for the development, either on public lands or on private land. So what the expectation for this particular project is that the increased value as a result of the new construction that will occur will generate sufficient service payment revenue to pay for a portion of the environmental remediation that is necessary on the site. And then the port would issue bonds. The city is not being asked to actually issue the debt for this obligation. They are being asked to assign the service payments to the port, so they may issue the debt to pay for the environmental remediation or that portion of it that it is determined the TIF payments can support. So that's just a little bit of brief, basic TIF 101. The terms of this particular transaction are still being negotiated and have not been finalized yet, so we're not going to talk about specific terms for this deal because they're not known yet. But does anybody have any questions about the basic TIF premise or what may happen here?
One question that I would have, I know the school district would have approval rights, but would the other county entities have approval rights on it as well that would receive a portion of the tax money normally?
Okay. So in this particular instance, no. So the school district has the approval rights. the joint vocational school is entitled to notice and is entitled to compensation according to the compensation that is agreed to by the city school district. They don't have specific approval rights, and their compensation is fixed based on whatever the other school district, the primary school district, agrees to. If this TIF were to exempt residential property as opposed to commercial property, the county would also have notice and approval rights. But on commercial property, only the school has approval rights.
So like that would exclude the library and all that as well?
Right, they have no approval rights for any of the TIFs, although again, if this were a residential project, some of the social service levies are treated differently for a residential TIF, but not on a commercial TIF. All of the tax revenues go into the tax increment equivalent fund of the city, and none of the levies are treated differently on a commercial project.
Okay, thank you.
Brenda, do we have an impending possibility? I think we're looking towards the one that Linda brought up, but do we have any kind of a timetable when they're thinking of moving on this? Have you been advised? Or Linda, maybe she can answer the question.
So negotiations
timetable?
are underway with the school district, and so we hope that there is a deal in place in September.
September. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So there was a comment that you might be coming back. Would it be before or after that September date?
So it would be in September, after we have a deal with the school district to explain the terms of the deal before you approve the deal.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
You know, the only other thing I want to say here is that the schools have been extremely cooperative, I think, and really negotiating in good faith with us. And they understand that this site, as it stands now, generates almost nothing for them. They also have indicated they understand that the city has already put money into developing this site through the roadway, for example, and through our time and energy. And so I want to say that I'm very pleased with the way the negotiations have gone. And I feel confident that having Brenda represent us, that this is going to be a good deal, not just for us, but for everyone. And the last thing, and I know this is cornball, but there's no I in team. And it is a team that has brought this project and will bring the Reading Life Science project to fruition. I am so appreciative, for example, to this council for the support and the patience that you have had on these two very difficult sites. They are going to happen now. I think that's the first time I can stand up here and say to you that I really believe they are going to happen in a timely manner. But keep in mind, these were difficult sites. These were sites that no developer wanted to touch. And understandably, because they were a hotbed of contamination. And so without the support of council, administration, Patrick Ross has just been phenomenal. He has been my right arm on this. He has been there every time that I have needed him. And also the other economic development agencies like the Port, Hamilton County, the state. You know, we worked with the Port to get $1 million grant to pay for remediation of this site, and a $1.2 million grant and a $1 million loan. We've worked with the county, and the Port itself has patient capital money in this project. The developer is taking out a loan on this project. EPA grant we got. So it has taken time and energy, and I thank you for allowing me and all these other people to bring it to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you,
And the
Linda.
mayor, of
Thank
course.
you.
You always thank the mayor.
Thank you, Lynn.
Any questions? Nope, okay.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you very much. And neither of you have to stay any longer if you decide that the rest of the meeting can go on without you. You're welcome.
I will be back next month with Melissa.
Correct.
Johnson from the Port Authority.
The first Tuesday, right?
Yes.
First Tuesday, yes.
Yes, we're
Hey,
on the agenda.
Linda, before you leave, I am going to again proceed with a second Ward Advisory Committee meeting next week
Okay.
at probably 7:45 or 8 o'clock. And I plan on, again, using Dennis Selm and the ICRC to televise that. I think it'd be, usually I get 10, 15 people, 20 people, I hope, or more. But it is another opportunity for you to speak on behalf of the city for the work that you've been doing, and I'm very pleased with what you've told us.
Thank you.
So you're more than welcome. I'd like you to come. It's going to be a public meeting here at this council chamber. We no longer have a fourth Tuesday meeting, so I've elected to have the Second Ward Advisory Committee meeting, and if you would like to come and be here and speak and tell us the rest of the city again, I think it would be very valuable.
Okay, what is that date?
It's next Tuesday, the 24th, at probably 7:45, because I don't want to infringe on the We Thrive group too much. It'll
I
be
might
around.
be in Athens, Ohio that day. Let me
Well,
check.
you're
Let
more
me
welcome
check,
to
Tony,
let
and
me
I'll
know,
let
but it
you
will
know.
be televised with the ICRC, and that's my
I'm
goal.
happy to be there if I can.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
There is no scheduled executive session. Any other business that Mr. Fischescher?
Okay, I know that normally we don't give, quote, a committee report at this meeting, but I did want to bring up, as I had mentioned at the last report, that Dave and I were going to walk Dottie Court to discuss with the residents the various, to get their views and ideas on the parking situation before school started. We did that on the 7th of August. We were able to reach about half of the residents, I believe, and the vast majority, and I've got the statistics, but I won't go through all that. What I did want to do was discuss the end result, because school will be starting before our next meeting. After evaluation, Dave and I felt that the best starting point would be to eliminate parking on one side from 8 to 3 during school days. We'd further like to see administration approve a ticketing campaign at the start of school to get the point across that parking indifference will not be tolerated. And we would like to see that carried out through Maple Drive and Lori Lane included. I was going to try to meet with Patrick. He was gone on vacation. But I was able to discuss with him on the telephone our findings, what we were thinking, and I think in the meantime, he knew that I was coming or calling, so he and the mayor got together and also worked on that. And the end result is they felt that limiting parking during school hours makes it appear that the city is singling out the M&D girls. They prefer to start out with a warning ticket campaign at the start of the school year. If violations continue, then tickets would be issued. They do agree that no parking at the top of the street needs to be better marked, and that the entire cul-de-sac needs to be marked as no parking. And those were two issues that were brought up, observed by Dave and I, and also brought up by a few of the residents. So I guess the end result is, and I did talk to Chief Edens, and he informed me that he's going to have an officer dedicated, assigned to the area around the school to enforce traffic and parking violations for the first 2.5 weeks of school. So I guess the end result is, we're going to try just encouraging, I guess you would say, with warning citations to begin with, and then by ticketing cars that do not park properly. And I will remind everyone that it's 3 foot on either side of a driveway and a foot from the curb. So those were the two biggest issues that I heard on on Dottie Court was that, you know, they were parking right against, and it was hard to get out of the driveway. So, and I did tell the residents, as we talked to them, that's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you park and you block your own driveway, that's still a violation. So, you know, be aware that your car too has to be 3 foot from the driveway. The rest of my report I'll give at the next meeting, including I do have the statistics for July from the police and fire, but I'll give those at the next meeting also.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lindeman?
I'd like to have a committee meeting with utilities, buildings, and lands. I was hoping to have it on the 24th, but you were saying something about your meeting. You don't want to start yours until 8 o'clock, so I'm assuming you have something else going on before 8 o'clock?
Well, the We Thrive group, I think, am I correct?
Yeah, so we're meeting and we're meeting at 6 at the library, so.
Then we'll probably meet at 7:30.
Okay.
Could you make a meeting for utilities? It's
Yeah.
about the bid proposal for waste collection.
What time, 6:30 you went?
That'd be great if, Dave, would that work for you?
6:30 on Tuesday?
Yes, the 24th.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, if you can wait a little bit after the meeting tonight, I'll give you copies.
Okay.
Mr. DeChico?
And I just wanted to make an announcement that I'm having a Laws and Contracts Committee meeting on Monday, August 23rd at 6:30 here in either the conference room or council chambers, depending on how many people we have.
That was August 30th,
23rd,
23rd?
Monday.
Any other business to bring up for putting into context? Okay, we will go on then with the legislation, reading of our resolution.
An emergency resolution to accept the material terms of the One Ohio subdivision settlement pursuant to the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding and consistent with the terms of the July 21st, 2021 National Opioid Settlement Agreement.
Can I just make a comment about that?
Yes, go right ahead.
So I was at the Greater Cincinnati Finance Officer Association meeting today. They have done the extension to the 20th, because I know you guys are receiving it and some of the deadlines said the 13th, the 14th. So this was something that came up that was a little muddy, I would say, for a lot of municipalities in the application for it. It was today noted that a lot of the municipalities and villages were applying for it, and you know, we still don't know that trickle-down amount or whatnot. So some of that money is going to a nonprofit, and some of it's going back to municipalities and villages. So when we think about programs, you know, that they might go for, you know, think of the National Night Out, or some people are hiring like a public health person to help with initiatives in their community. So I just wanted to let everybody know kind of thoughts on that. And of course, that's all thought pod ideas until it trickles down. But I just wanted to give that knowledge from today's meeting I had.
Chris?
Yes.
It was my impression from Patrick that this should be passed tonight.
Yes.
Yes, it needs to
So
be
is
passed
this
tonight.
set
And to
first reading,
supplement
but-
what Sabrina
Well,
says,
it's a
there are.
first reading. It's
I know,
just-
but
Oh, I'm waiting
hear
for his
anything, I want to make a motion to suspend the rules for the second. third.
Second.
motion made by Mr. Lindeman, second by Mr. Gertz, to suspend the rules that require a second and third reading. Roll call?
Mr. Powell?
Did you want to comment, Dave? No, you can do, I can do it after this. Okay.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Fischescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
That motion passed.
Discussion.
In addition to what Sabrina was talking about, there are cash payments. In terms of the dollar amount, it's somewhere around $92,000 total to the city of Reading, which would be a direct cash payment. There would be, which would come in two chunks. And when she says it was kind of money, that's correct. We received a notice that the settlement had been approved on August the 4th, and we were told to have it sent to the settlement back to them by August the 6th, which, you know, they did provide that if we had to have a public meeting, that they would extend that deadline, which is what we're doing today.
So this is much, I mean, I was involved in programs with the tobacco money when they made the settlement. It's a lot like that.
It's very similar to that, and there's going to be money, as Sabrina indicated, that will be available for grants. I know that Hamilton County has already indicated that they are going to join it for their part. I don't think the city of Cincinnati is, but I'm not sure on that, so I'm not gonna, the last I heard they were not, but I don't know what their final decision will be.
I think I heard on the radio that they were about to talk about this particular.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, Yost announced on Sunday that he was short of the 95% figure that would be required for the settlement to go through, but he was at 86%. And allowing for communities such as Reading that have to have a meeting to get this done, I would assume he's going to be very close to 95%, probably by the end of next week.
Chris,
Yes.
since it's kind of an open meeting for that part, maybe you could ask, see if anybody has a question about it.
Any questions?
There you go.
It's a, it's coming from pharmaceutical companies. There's 3 of them that are involved in this litigation. There are multiple lawsuits that have been filed against different pharmaceutical companies, and basically it's the nuts and bolts of it is they were sued because they were pushing opiate drugs onto patients. And that's the nuts and bolts of it. Of course, they probably won't be admitting liability as part of the settlement, but that's pretty standard stuff. That's the
Target.
yeah. Well, they get $92,000, and they're eligible to apply for grants that will be there's a rather large pot of money that you have to apply for, and that pot of money will be, you know, if we have something that the city deems to apply for a grant for, we would be eligible to do that. Well, the 92,000 probably would go into the general fund, but if we're actually applying for a grant, the grant process would have terms that we would have to, you know, I'm not sure that it would be restricted to Narcan or expenses incurred in opiate education or anything like that. I think it's probably broader than that. But, you know, the bottom line is that's where the money's being put. That's where the biggest chunk of the money's being put.
It's already been a tremendous expense to our city, and every city, and to our country. Billions of dollars. Oh, boy.
No.
Very seldom hear that, and now it's constant, and it's saving people's lives.
Oh, yeah. They estimate $50 billion in opioids. Most of it crosses our southern border every year. Costs this nation probably 3-4 times that amount. in
Most of
total
it comes
cost.
from China,
Right
Dave?
across our southern border.
our good friend.
It's incredible.
Dave, do you think these body cameras they were talking about, that would be something that they could apply for?
It probably, Don, I don't know the answer to that, but, you know, law enforcement equipment and life-saving equipment probably would qualify. But, you know, the bottom line is until the settlement is finally approved, which is what this process is all about, you know, we'll get more information on the terms. There was a flyer that Patrick sent out, and if you follow the link on that flyer, it gives a summary of the settlement. And, you know, the big, there's 122 pages on one exhibit, which is what the cities are getting. But most of the rest of them you can read through in about 15 minutes. And it will tell you what the settlement is and what what would be eligible.
They were pretty vague about what you can spend it on, though. I did try to read through that, and, you
Which
know.
works for us.
They said the way they talked, it would be coming out when the money did, the exact.
Well, sure. But, you know, the bottom line is that the broader they write the rules, the more likely we are to get money.
Right.
You know, I also thought I saw that the more people who agree with this settlement, the higher the money might go, because then there won't be other settlements to have to be, and other lawsuits coming in the future.
Well, actually, there are other lawsuits out there, Chris, and the plain fact of the matter is that this is not a global settlement with every opioid producer. It's a settlement with 3. I know that Purdue Pharma was also sued, and they came up with a plan to settle the case, and then all of a sudden Purdue Pharma's filed bankruptcy, which means that if that thing gets settled, it'll be pennies on the dollar and will be 20 years down the road. But the bottom line is that it's just involving 3 companies.
Okay. So do I need I still need
Motion to approve.
Motion to second.
Adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Albrecht, seconded by Mr. Lynn to adopt the resolution. Roll call?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted, or resolution number?
2021-25R.
Okay, now my understanding is that the next 2 ordinances are 2 options on the same ordinance, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, how should we handle that? We read them both and then,
Well, they both have the same title.
they both have the same title.
So we can do that, and then I can read section 1 of both if you'd prefer.
Yeah, I mean, we can't pass them both, I don't think.
Well, we should have a discussion.
Yeah, let's read
at
them
some
both and
point-
then do a discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
So, go ahead and
So-
read them, yes,
Titles are both the same.
okay.
An ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract with RAC and I believe it's Belauer Excavating Company Incorporated for paving of Benson Street and declaring an emergency. It does go on to read, be it ordained by the city, by the Council of the City of Reading, Ohio, Section 1, this is the first one, that the City of Reading has $110,000 of Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funds, to expend for the purpose of paving Benson Street. The base bid for paving from Jefferson Avenue to our western boundary on Benson Street will cost $148,725 by RAC and Belauer. The alternate bid includes paving of Benson between Reading Road and Jefferson Avenue. The alternate bid total is $119,675. The total paving cost of Benson Street from Reading Road to the city's western boundary at the bridge is $268,400. And that is what the second one reads, minus where it says the alternative bid includes paving.
So they're actually different.
Yeah, they are different.
Why, they're different.
All right.
Yeah,
the whole
so
thing
if
read?
you read the first one and pass the first one, and you don't, and you want to do the additional one, you would read the second one and pass it.
Okay.
That's the way I understand that standard to read. Is that your understanding, Tony?
They're very ambiguous to me when I read them, to
Yeah,
be
'cause
honest with you. I
mean-
don't know about the drafting them, but I think that you're correct, that if we pave the street from Reading Road to the bridge, then it's $268,400 is the total, but the $110,000 is not the total amount of the community development block grant. I think it's $144,000 is what we actually got. So I'm told, I did do a little bit of checking today. I called Kyle Snyder and left a message. He's the gentleman, I believe, that is, Mr. Ashbrook gave me that name to call. the kind of the representative for the Community Development Block Grant servicing for Reading. The thing that's a little disturbing is that here we are, I got this yesterday, and you know, I really didn't get a chance to digest this, and we're kind of told we got to pass it tonight, if I understand it. So I don't want to lose $144,000, that's for sure, but you know, this was brought up back towards the end of last year, November, December, I don't remember the exact timetable, that we could have moved on this, and we ended up here with one bid, which is a little bit, I'm not happy with one bid. Reminds me of the big toys we bought when we had to run that through on an emergency basis a few years ago. But I would, personally, I would like to see us pave the whole street. There's some issues that we probably should have. It's in my ward, and I would like to see it achieved. And not only, I think my ward probably qualifies more than most because of the makeup of the people and the income and so forth. So at the same time, I wish we had moved on this a little bit quicker, and we could have gotten, I don't even know what the engineer's estimate, do we know what the engineer's estimate was on the project?
Carla, do you have a copy of both ordinances? Can we
What is the engineer's estimate? Do we know that, Mayor?
Can we have both of them for a second?
Not off the top of my head, no. But the engineer was here when the only bid was open and said that he thought it was very close to what their estimate was. I didn't
Was
see
that
their.
JMA? Who was that?
Yeah, it's, oh goodness,
Who was the representative?
Courtney is his name. He replaced Dan Schuster when Dan unfortunately passed away. I got to think for a second for Courtney's last name.
Okay.
Good man.
So do we have the money to do the whole street?
Absolutely. Between street maintenance and streets and curbs, there's plenty of money in street maintenance alone. We could write out a check.
I think everybody's wanting to do the whole street, so
Right, yeah.
if we got the money.
I think I got 1.15 in streets and curbs, and was it 600,000 or 800,000 in?
Yes. Yes, so there's plenty.
Can we use the additional 34,000 towards that in the CBDG money?
Well, I think that, again, remember, council's been working on this for some time. It's for restroom equipment for Koenig Park that we've already committed to. So,
What did we commit? I don't remember a commitment. Did we pass an ordinance on that? I know they agreed back in December or January, or November to, actually, I thought the whole amount was gonna go for the restrooms, if I remember correctly, the whole 144,000. But then they found out it's in the floodplain, which I figured they would have known anyway, but regardless, I agree with Don. I think that we could put the 34,000. I mean, we're getting towards the end of the season, and I don't exactly know what we're doing when, in the restrooms. What are we exactly gonna do in the restrooms there, the $34,000?
you know, somebody knew there was new lighting, new fixtures, you know, things that were allowed through CDBG. You know, it wasn't allowed to
Has that been
demolish.
done?
Please,
Has
yes,
that been done?
that has all been documented and done. Again, we're running down
I mean, it's
to deadline.
finished, it's been installed and paid for? I haven't looked at it.
No, the grant,
It was approved
yes.
by the CBG.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we voted a while ago to split the money and take some of it and apply it towards the bathrooms and then the rest towards Benson.
I remember we voted back in the end of the year about doing the bathrooms, but I don't remember that we voted on piecemealing it. But was there a subsequent vote, you're saying, Mrs. Adichico, since November?
No, I believe it was around that time when we were discussing this grant and the one for the following years.
Well, I'm in favor of doing the whole street, which is frustrating to me the way it's turning out, but I'll make a motion to suspend the rules on the ordinance that provides for $268,000.
All right.
I'll second it.
And I will indicate that I've read both ordinances now, and I'm satisfied that if you vote on the second one, you don't need to vote on the first, which is the second one's the whole street ordinance.
What's your thoughts, Don? I'm curious.
Well, I really don't know. I'm not part of the administration, so I have no idea what exactly the fixtures are gonna change out. I understood that there were some stainless steel things in there that should last for a lifetime. I'm not sure exactly what, do you know, Bo, what it is that they're gonna change out, other than
Already
lighting?
changed it.
Well, they already have changed it?
You
Oh,
said
I
it's
mean,
already
what's the
done,
point?
correct?
No, I have not seen that it's been done, no.
Oh, I thought you said
I
it
know it
was.
has been ordered and it has been approved.
Okay, well, it's ordered and approved, so.
Yep. Okay,
Do we not need an ordinance on that since it was a grant? Do you know? I know it's less than $50,000, but
If it's less than $50,000.
even if it's a grant money though? Even though it was from a grant?
Correct.
But I certainly agree that we should do the whole street. I think there'd probably be some people upset about halfway down the street if we didn't.
It definitely needs.
I would agree with the whole street also.
okay. So ordinance number 2.
Let me ask one other question. There are curbs that were in front of the new art dance studio facility that the interlocking pavers are not properly leveled. And then, of course, there's another location where where it used to be a bank and there was an ingress and egress for, that is now not used, but it probably should be corrected. If we're gonna be working in there, as the administration explored fixing those curbs and raising them so that they should be properly installed and leveling and raising and leveling the interlocking pavers along there? Has that been explored, do you know, Mayor?
You know, our service department, again, has done improvements, you know, to the pavers and to curbs on Benson Street. I thought Mr. Courtney had relayed that to you. That's what he told me. And we'll continue to do improvements as we can.
Well, no, he didn't relate to me that was part of this project. I didn't hear that.
Not a part of this project, but he said he relayed to you that we have done improvements there and we plan
Oh,
to do
yeah,
more.
I'm aware that they do
Yes.
a lot of fine improvements all through the city. I wasn't
Absolutely.
aware that they were this particular. I think both of those locations should be corrected because
And
they're.
where are they at, Mr. Gertz?
Well, it's Foley's Bar. There's a place that you can pull in, but you have to back out into the street, and it's, I don't want to prevent them from their parking, but at the same time, it's illegal to back out into the thoroughfare, and that's what is happening there. The driveway entrance should be put in correctly and the curb installed, and then interlocking pavers raised appropriately, and then I think there was the one I said at the new facility at, which I'm very pleased, by the way. The Harshes have worked on that, and Wells, your sister, to develop that property. But at the same time, those interlocking pavers should be raised as well. There's like a driveway.
You sure they want to abandon that driveway? You know, there's a big, huge garage there for deliveries.
Well, then I think they've already put a curb in. I think SOS already installed a curb to prevent flooding. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it again.
Well, we'll look into these things and.
Well, I think
there's
a lot of,
plenty
we're
of
doing
others.
this, you got a contractor there, it would be, worthwhile doing an extra on the job. It is my ward, I'm concerned about it.
We've been concerned about for many years, so.
Let's fix it.
I would say,
Okay.
Call the motion.
just as a comment, since I have a new committee with the bridal district, anything that the service department or you and Patrick would see as an improvement that while we're doing this, it makes sense to do that too. I would appreciate it if you would consider it.
Awesome. We sure will.
Okay, so the second ordinance, which has the alternate bid and raises the contract amount to $268,400, is the one that we are going to read. And now is your time to make a motion to adopt.
I think Tony made the motion.
Oh, that's right, he
seconded on.
Suspension.
That was just suspension.
Yes,
Yeah.
we haven't voted on
We
it.
haven't voted.
We haven't voted on that yet.
Okay.
Wait, can we go back? So who's suspended?
Tony.
I made the motion,
and
Carl, and Randy seconded the
seconded.
motion to suspend the rules for a second and third reading.
And a roll call.
Okay. Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Fischescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Yeah, motion passed.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Edichico, second by Mr. Lindeman, to adopt the ordinance, alternate bid number 2 with a contract of $268,400. Roll call?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Fischasher?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Okay. That ordinance is adopted, ordinance number.
2021-26.
And the first ordinance that was a total amount of 148 for the contract will be tabled indefinitely.
Does that take a motion or anything?
Probably should do a motion.
I'll make a motion that we table the first ordinance.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Powell, seconded by Mr. Fischasher to table the base ordinance. Roll call? Oh, yeah, roll call. I mean, no. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that ordinance is, yeah, that ordinance is tabled. Let's do our third ordinance, hope it's easier.
An ordinance accepting an easement for the purpose of installation of a guardrail and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend the second and third reading?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Edichico, seconded by Mr. Fischasher to suspend the rule that requires a second and third reading. Roll call?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Fischasher?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Fischasher, seconded by Mr. Lindeman to adopt the ordinance for the easement for the guardrail. Roll call?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Fischasher?
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted, ordinance number.
2021-27.
Okay.
Move we adjourn.
Man, we worked really hard to improve Ward 2
Well,
today.
You know, if
I
we
got-
could, just.
Good.
Go ahead.
I got- Yeah, other business, any other business? Do you have something?
You know,
wanna
just a
read?
few things. Reading Community Schools open up their doors tomorrow. We beg people to please slow down as you drive, please. You know, allow our students to get to and from school as we help them and watch out for them. I believe it's 7 through 12 starts tomorrow. Elementary starts Thursday, M&D and St. Peter and Paul Academy start next week. But again, we ask everybody to please slow down. On August 28th is our Taste of Reading to be held at Koenig Park from noon to 11 p.m. Should be a great event. Myself and our service department are going to meet with representatives of the Ladies Auxiliary. It's either tomorrow or Thursday, their choice. They haven't gotten back to me, but anyway, again, August 28th, Koenig Park Entertainment. I think at noontime, Reading High School's band, that's an outstanding band this year. Got to hear them play yesterday morning at Reading School, and they're awesome. And so anyway, please get down to that. On September 12th is our Antique Classic Car Show. Again, it'll be the last year at the pool at the Hayfie Fieldhouse. You know, hopefully by this time next year, new buildings are going up and new tax revenues are being realized by us. So anyway, we're working for an alternate place for the car show for next year. On September 18th and 19th is our Lady of the Valleys September Fest down St. Pierre and Paul, the old school parking lot down there. So that's always an excellent event. September 22nd is our Reading Bridal District's Fall in Love event. Benson Street will be closed from 5 p.m. till approximately midnight. Sorry, it's been a long day. October 9th is St. Peter and Paul Academy's Running Scared. There will be street closures there. So anyway, you know, we'll get that out there. And October 22nd is our Settlement Day dinner, and that's going to be an excellent show and an excellent night for us as well. That's it for me.
Okay.
I have one more announcement. There's a fun run that's only a mile long that the Reading Cross Country Group is putting on. It's at Koenig Park, so it's a kind of consolidated path, but they're going to have a DJ. They're giving away free shirts for anybody that registers online, or you can call my office if you want registered at 513-733-4879. Wyatt's going to be running, so I'm sure he'll win his age group. He might be faster than Mom, so we'll see. We'll see how I can get him running fast on Saturday. So I'm sure it'll be a good spectator sport for you if you want to watch.
Any other business?
He runs a mile. That's impressive.
Then this meeting's
Time
adjourned.
for now.